Okay, so we have been talking about population density, different trends in population. So I want you guys to tell me what are some factors that actually influence population changes? Like what kinds of things could change a population? Yes.
Birth rate?
Birth rate, yep. Anyone else? Yep.
Death rate?
Death rate, yes. Anybody in the back? No? What about you? You have anything?
Environmental factor?
Okay, environmental factors for sure. That could also contribute to what resources they have access to, right? Like if someone's living in a climate that has good soil and good temperatures and is seasonal, they can grow crops and have access to water. Like those things are going to change what resources they have available, which absolutely influences population. Yes. A couple more. Some of these you might not have even thought of before. But one of those things is going to be cost of education. So if education is expensive, are people going to have more or less children? Less children, right? The less kids that they have to pay for to go through school, the better, right? It could also be not even having access to education, right? Like people who don't have as much access to education are not going to be able to make a living or survive as much as someone who has a good education, thus changing their lifespan and what resources they then have available for them, or how many kids they end up producing. Another one is going to be the female labor market participation. This one is a little obscure, not quite as clear, but think about what the role of a woman is. So if we go back into history, even just into like the 50s or 60s, okay, 1950s, 1960s, what was the role of a woman at that time? Yep.
Wasn't it just to like produce kids?
Yeah, make kids, build a home, like build a family, make dinner, clean, which there's not to say that that's a bad thing to do, but at the time that's what almost all women did. Now look at that and compare it to today's society. What is the role of women now? Looks a little bit different, right? Now we have women who are choosing, do I want to build a family or do I want to build a career? And they're prioritizing their career because there's more females that are actually participating in the labor market. The labor market is just jobs available, right? There's more jobs available to them. So if they're going to prioritize their career, are they going to have more or less kids? Less, right? They don't have time, or they choose not to make time for that. And again, not saying that that's good or bad either way, it's just a different expectation, different opportunities. And that kind of plays right into cultural attitudes to family size. So if you look at different religions, different cultures, different societies, they're going to have different expectations for families, right? So if you look at a farming family in the Midwest, they're going to have more kids because the more kids they have, the more free labor they have, right? The more kids that they can have working on the farms to produce things for them. Or looking at religion, a Mormon family, as we are familiar with in our town, can create lots of kids. They want to, they feel like it is their duty to produce all of these children. And so the more children they have, the higher ranking they have after. That's a whole other conversation. But that is contributing to their desire for more children. Where if you look at a family who lives in a small city, who's maybe a secular family, they might want 1 or 2 kids and be good, right? So your cultural expectations and your societal expectations are also going to contribute to how many kids you're going to have, how big is your population going to be. Healthcare standards, the better healthcare you have, the longer people are living, the more children they can make. Government policy, if you look in Asia, there are countries where they're allowed to have 1 kid. In China, you're allowed to have 1 kid. If you're only allowed to have 1 kid per 2 people, what's that going to do to your population? It's going to decrease it, right? Because 2 people having one, you're already shrinking into less people, right? Economic growth, stability of society, which could contribute to war, and, is the government supportive? Are they getting you the resources that they need? Is your economy producing enough for you to be able to feed your families or to make enough money to have kids? Availability of contraception, and I know that this one's kind of a gross one and makes everyone uncomfortable, we don't want to talk about it, but access to birth control is a huge thing. If you don't have access to birth control, what are the odds, or what's that going to do to your population? Make it grow, increase. The less contraception you have, the more babies you're making, right? So not having access to those types of contraceptions are going to increase your population due to the lack of safety or not being able to stop things from happening, and people are going to do what people are going to do, right? No matter how much we want to think about that. So these are all just a couple things. Obviously there's more, but these are all factors that could either cause a country's population to grow or cause it to decrease. The past couple days we've been talking through birth rates, death rates, net increase. So we're looking at how many people are born per 1,000 people every year, how many people die per 1,000 people every year, and when we subtract those two from each other, we get our net increase, which is telling us our natural increase or decrease of our population. If your net increase is negative, what does that mean for your population? It's going down, it's decreasing, okay? And a positive net increase is going to be a growing population. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these things and we're going to look at a specific model that we use, that geographers use to kind of compare those things and make predictions for populations. So we have, what is a population pyramid? How do we read it? What factors are influencing these populations to go in the direction that they're going? And what kind of predictions can we make based on these different types of population pyramids? Okay? This is the population pyramid. Okay, what do we notice about it? Okay, this one specifically is increasing. What do we notice about how is it broken up? Like, look at the different pieces of it.
Different age groups.
Okay, we have different age groups and males and females. So it's broken up into sex, right? Not gender, but sex. Broken up into different age groups. When we look at these different age groups and these different sexes, each one of those is called a cohort. So if we look at males age 0 to 4 right here, this little guy, that's one cohort. Okay, if we want to look at age 40 to 44 females, we're going to follow over here, cohort. What I want you to do right now is find your cohort on this graph. So if you're a male, you're looking on the male side. If you're a female, you're looking at the female side. Regan, can you tell me which cohort do you belong to?
The female 15 to 19.
And what percentage of population do you fall under?
Like 3.7.
3.7. So if we look at 15 to 19 females, 15 to 19 females right here, this cohort is about 3.7, 3.8. Yep. Good job. So when we break it down into all these different cohorts, it can help us look at reproductive age, pre-reproductive age, post-reproductive age. It breaks it up into who's dying and when are they dying, or who's living and how are they living. So this is the exact same population pyramid. This is the world in 2020. Okay, still broken up into male, female, all of our age cohorts are still the same. But we see it gives us a little bit more detail. So on the bottom here we have our pre-reproductive, which is age like 0 to 19-ish, or I guess it's 14, okay? Which is about, pre-reproductive means before kids are able to actually make children or reproduce. So this is a generalization. That doesn't mean that you have to be above the age of 14 to have kids. It's going to be different for every single person. But this is just an estimate, a generalization for most people, okay? So those are our pre-reproductive. Our reproductive age people are the middle-aged people who are making families. These are people who are in the prime of their life, who are making children, growing families. This is going to be about age 15 to about 45. Again, generalization. You can have kids further in, you can have less. Come on in. Yeah, you're good. We're just in the middle of talking about population pyramids. And then our post-reproductive, what do we notice about the post-reproductive age? What do we see on there?
It decreases as the age goes up.
Why is it decreasing as the age goes up?
Because people lost their ability to have children. Like,
We're looking at post-reproductive though. Why is the population number getting smaller as they get older?
oh, because they start pass away.
They start to die, right? They're starting to pass away. They're aging out. As you get older, you die. It happens to everybody. So we break it up into this because we can look at this pre-reproductive age. What's going to happen to those pre-reproductive aged kids eventually? Eventually they're going to get older. And eventually they're going to start having children.
Yeah.
So if we have bigger numbers, larger percentages of these pre-reproductive age kids, and then they suddenly become reproductive age, what kind of prediction do you think we could make about the new wave of pre-reproductive age kids?
There's gonna be a lot.
There's more, right? The more that are reproducing, the more they're going to produce, right? Okay, so there are three different types of specific population pyramids that kind of function like this that can help us make predictions on what their population is going to do. Okay, so you need to make sure you write these down because these are going to be the three main things that we refer to. Okay, so the first one is going to be an expanding pyramid. This is Ethiopia in 2020. Okay, what do we notice about their population? What are some things that stick out right away?
It's increasing, they're expanding.
It's expanding, it's increasing, and how do you know that? Because this base layer, right, this pre-reproductive age, the base of the pyramid, is so large that what is going to happen to that age eventually? They're going to grow up and they're going to have kids. And if we look at how wide this base is, it's just going to get wider and wider and wider, right? So an expanding pyramid is where it shows a population is growing, right? It's expanding, it's getting bigger. Lots of pre-reproductive age people that will eventually be reproducing, okay? The next kind of population pyramid that you need to know about is called a stable pyramid. Stable means what? If someone's stable, if we're talking about someone's mental health, and we're like, oh yeah, they're stable. What's that mean? They're good.
Yeah.
They're staying the same, right? It doesn't change, right? Or like if I'm going to climb up on this desk and someone says, don't do that, Miss Trotter, it's not stable. It means it's wobbly, right? It's not predictable. Stable means it's even. It's stable, it's solid, it's not changing, right? You see a little bit of fluctuation here, but that's just natural life taking place. But for the most part, our population is staying about the same. It's not really growing, it's not really shrinking. Okay? And the last kind that we need to know about, who thinks they know what it is? We have one that's expanding, we have one that's stable.
Pyramid upside down.
Pyramid upside down. Yes, we're going to have one that's going to be shrinking, right? So this is called a diminishing pyramid, and this is where our population is getting smaller. So if we look at our pre-reproductive age, it's the smallest part of the whole pyramid, right? Which tells us what? Eventually they're going to become here, and then they're going to produce. But if the trend continues, are they going to produce more or less? Less, right? That's a prediction that we can make based on the trend that is shown on this pyramid. Okay? Most of the population is up here in our post-reproductive age. And so if they can't produce, because they're post-reproductive, then our population is not going to get any bigger, right? Okay, so what we're going to do now is that you guys are going to take what we learned here, these three types of pyramids, and you're going to be creating your own pyramid. Okay? So you're going to get into groups of two. I'm going to hand this out. We are going to be calculating the different percentages for a population and then putting it into our own pyramid. Once you have your pyramid done, you're going to be looking at, is this an expanding, a stable, or a diminishing? And then I want you to work together to investigate and research your specific country, and I want you to look at what factors, maybe from what we talked about in Bellwork, what factors are causing that population to follow that trend, okay? Does everyone understand? Okay, so what you're going to need to know how to do in order to do this activity is you're going to need to know how to calculate your population percentage. Okay, so on this packet that you're going to get, you're going to get an assigned country. So let's just say you're gonna do the US, okay? You have your different cohorts are already there. You have your males and your females and all of your population numbers for each of those cohorts. You're just calculating this percentage. So we're gonna take our cohort population, that's percentage. It's not supposed to, act like that's not there. It's gone. It's not there. We're going to take our cohort population, so let's say that is the males age 0 to 4, okay? So that's going to be 10,445,659, and I'm going to divide it by our total population of the whole countries, which for the US you're going to find at the bottom, it says total. It's going to be 332,639,102, okay? You're going to divide these two numbers, okay? That's going to give you a decimal. Okay, when you get your decimal, you're going to multiply that by 100, and that will give you your percentage. Okay, you guys know how to do math, you know how to do percentages. I want you to round to the nearest 10. Okay? Then, once you get your percentages filled in, 3.14, Ricky did it for me, thank you, Regan. 3.14%, perfect, okay? Then, with your partner, you're going to go to this graph paper where you are going to build your own population pyramid. So you're going to go down here to the males, age 0 to 4 cohort, and we're going to start in the middle here, let's go 0 to 8 and 0 to 8 that way. We're going to go to the male side, we're going to go to 3.14 to the nearest 10th is going to be 3.1. So we'll go to 3, go a little bit past, and we'll build our little square and fill it in. Okay, I ask that you choose one color for males, one color for females, just like we saw on the population pyramid on the board. And then once you guys are done and we've answered all the questions, we will, as a class, discuss and compare the different countries and kind of discuss some of the factors that might be causing it to do that. Any questions? All right, perfect. Go ahead and get into groups, and we will get going.
The third one for me is going to be 3.02.
I think this will be a pretty stable
Yeah,
pyramid.
the third one's just 3.0. I mean,